Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I thought I would start with the daily chart again today just to show you that here's the big uptrend that we've had. And I get a lot of questions about these lines that I use on this day. This is a daily chart, and this is our envelope strategy that I use on here. And it just helps to tell you when prices are oversold or overbought and when you can probably expect a turn. And you can see this on this daily chart here that we've been in this trading range, and we actually failed out the top slightly, failed out the bottom, and we went all the way down a measured move. That little dashed line is just a measured move of the width of the original channel, and we traded back up inside and noticed that back inside the channel high we're finding resistance again. So no surprise that we found resistance again right here at these same levels again today. So we pretty much had an inside day and just kind of a sideways day. Not a lot of price movement today. My guess is if the channel is going to hold, we'll push on down at least back to the midline, maybe back down to the other side of the channel, or we may push on through and go higher. We've already broke out once, and sometime if it is able to get through there again, we may push on up. But it wouldn't surprise me if the channel holds and we turn back down again. That's pretty typical. So we'll just have to see. Doesn't mean that we're going to, doesn't mean we can't go higher from here or turn back down. So, but typically you would expect if this is holding, prices will try to go lower again. Maybe only to the midline, maybe all the way to here. Maybe we push even lower and come all the way back down to this low again. We just have to see. Tomorrow we may break lower, fail, and turn up and go higher. So we're looking at basically we had a new low there, so we've already had a first entry, and so there was a second entry that triggered right there that failed, and we went higher. So we could continue on higher, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if this range high holds and we turn back down, at least come back and test the midline or maybe the other side of the range here. So we'll just have to see, but I thought I'd put that up there real quickly since we've been showing it some and talking about it. Pretty interesting to see it work at a much higher level. This is actually, again, a daily chart. So these are daily bars. Okay, and this is what that daily bar looks like on an intraday chart. You can see it's just a range day. And we spent most of the day trading right dab in the middle of the highs and lows of the range. Again, fairly typical. The problem is we got this resistance up here. This resistance is up here where the daily resistance is, and we tested that in the overnight, and we couldn't even get back anywhere close to that today during the regular trading hours. So you can see as we went on into the close, we stayed right inside this tighter green channel. So interesting day. Not a lot of trades today. We started out with a downward bias, but by lunchtime it was obvious this was a range, and there wasn't even a lot of price action in the afternoon. That's really weak, low volatility, low volume. Not a lot of, no real buying or selling. It's just real light volatility and volume. So really from 1 o'clock on, you got only that few bars in 2 hours. So that looks tighter and less than even the overnight trading there. Of course, there's a few more bars, but not many. So anyway, let's talk about the trades. Won't take long. Shouldn't take long because there's not many here today. I'm going to zoom in. And you can see early on we were chopping up here. This is really sideways. You can see we're on both sides of the EMA. 7 o'clock came right in here, which is about this is where I'll start marking the trades at 7 a.m. every day if you're new or anything or whatever. But we made a new high. We tried to go higher once, twice. So there's a failed second entry long there, but this is too much sideways action to be trying to trade a failure or a second entry or anything. So I just didn't think it was wise to trade that. It's above the EMA anyway, so it may act as a trap, and you got plenty of room down to these lows, but there's not much room to this low or this low. So I just think it was better to skip it. And we do drop on down. And notice we make a new low there, and you get a first entry, and you get a second entry right there, but it's not a very good signal bar. Too bullish. And then we try to break higher again and fail and turn down, all in the engulfing bar. You could go short one tick below this. I don't know if I would wait to here to go short because it's right into that overnight low. This is obviously a pretty strong trend down. So, and there actually is, I don't have it on here, I better put it on here. There's actually a little trend channel working down, and that's the first break. And so you'd expect a new low, but it wouldn't have to go far from here. So I believe the only way I would take this is on the engulfing bar with my sell stop one tick below this little bar right here. And then, of course, until this bar closes, your safety stop would have to go up here because this bar could still fluctuate up and down and stop you out if you put it right above the high while it's still in play. But as soon as this closes, this becomes your signal bar. Go ahead and move it down to one tick above that bar right there. And again, I like going short on the breakthrough there. And you may still take it here. I'm not as crazy about it, but you may still take it. But if you're just patient and a few minutes later, you come back up, and if you draw this trend line here and drag it up, this is going to fit in here. You might have had to adjust it a little bit because originally I had it a little bit steeper. But actually, if you look at this, I might have had it right the first go round. I had it more like this. And you get the break and a couple legs down, and then it reverses. So either way, I think you're all right because you get an overshoot here either way before it reverses. But this is probably more accurate. And sometimes it's kind of hard to find the trend line on this side. And, you know, it could easily be this one or this one. And you can make it fit either way. But I believe it fits best here. And you get the break, a couple legs down, and then it reverses. So it just depends on how you read it. But this was a failed second entry long. Again, an engulfing bar. It breaks higher first and turns down. You could still go short one tick below that, but I like, again, entering on the engulfing bar. But you got to be careful on engulfing bars because if you're not a real experienced trader or a chart reader, you're going to get chopped up on those sometimes. So just be careful with them. But that is a failure, however you played it. We drop on down. You get a first entry, and there's actually a second entry short right there. We had this exact same pattern yesterday, so hopefully you caught it today. This one is not as congestive as the one was just yesterday, but it's still congestion. You got one, two. When this closes, you got three bars stacked up side by side there, and at least one of them has a no body or a small body, and that's congestion. The other key is you've already had a break and two legs down, or if you didn't have the break, if you drew it like I originally drew it, you got the overshoot, and you got support right there, and you got those little two bar matching lows right there. Just not much room there. And this is what will happen to you. So hopefully you avoided that and you recognize that from yesterday. We talked about it in the chart lesson. And I know a bunch of people got caught up in that yesterday on that failure. In fact, let's just go look at it real quick. It's right there. I mean, it's almost there was another pattern here that was playing a little differently, but you can still see this pattern. Oops. I don't know what I did there. Did something. Yeah, here we go. But that is almost the exact same pattern. There's much more congestion here to yesterday because you can see that big bar with no body. Then that one's right beside it. Then sure, they're making a little bit lower lows and lower highs, but they're still stacked up. You want it to be, you want them to look like this or like this. When they start looking like this, then you got a problem. So it's almost a identical setup as yesterday, and it failed. You had more clues today because you either had the break in the new low, or you had an overshoot, plus you don't have much room to the lows. So, but it's almost identical repeat pattern. It fails and reverses. Unfortunately, the failed second entry short right here is here underneath, and that's congestion too. So I don't think it was too dangerous to go long there, even though it would have worked. But it does run up and pull back. And notice this, you got a leg up and you got a two-leg correction, and you got a second leg up. So technically that's a failed second entry short right there. And so I still like going long there, but you got to be able to see that. If you don't see that, you can't really take that trade. And this is a little congestive too, but it's going to act like a trap, and it's probably, if it breaks higher, it's probably going to take off, which it does. It takes it a minute, but once it goes, it really rockets on up. And I really like that trade, but you need to be able to understand what I just explained to you before you could take that trade. Otherwise, I'm marking this one as aggressive. So go back and listen to this a few times if you need to make sure you understand it. But there is a leg up, and then a two-legged correction, and then a second leg up. And let's just measure that leg and see what it looks like. And you can see it's pretty close to being a perfect measured move there, and then it backs up and fails and goes higher. So you need to be able to recognize that to trade that. Otherwise, there's no trade there. So that turns out to be a nice move. That's probably one of the better moves. Other than this short here, that's one of the better moves of the day. And then we just start working sideways. There was a second entry long right here, but again, I don't like that. It's just too much sideways action, and you probably would have gotten stopped out there. It turns out to be a little trading range here, and you get a lower high right here off the high of the range with a nice bar, and it's also a second entry short, although we don't care a whole lot about that. But if the setup plays by the range rules and you still get a second entry, we'll pay attention to it, but we're not looking for second entries necessarily here. So I like going short there. Just to ride it back to the EMA, I had this trend line drawn as well, so that's a little bit of a concern, but we were still expecting this to play out, and when it fails on that lower high in this range, you expect prices to come back at least to the EMA and back down here. Now they could bounce here, which they did, but it didn't matter. They went on lower before they bounced and went higher. And there's actually a second entry long here, because you could look at this as a double top, so first entry, second entry, but you don't want to go long at the high of this range, even though it works. So actually you got one leg up, then a correction, second leg up, but we don't get anything close to a measured leg, so even by reaching here, we didn't make it, I don't think. Let me just put it on there. There's your first leg, and there's your second leg. And yeah, we didn't quite make our measured move over there. You can see we came up short. But that gives you a clue that we may be going stronger to the downside. So, but we run on up, and then we start working down. And this is a reversal pattern, or what looks like a reversal pattern. It's definitely a failed second entry long. I like going short right there. And it's a quick, easy scalp, but you don't get anything more than that out of it, and then it bounces. So there's no long setup here, and then you're back to the highs up here, and you're just going sideways again. You can't enter, just don't enter in this stuff. Don't even try. You're just going to get chopped up. And then you get a little failed breakout, and this is a second entry short too. Notice that you got a double bottom, so there's a first entry, and this breaks higher and turns down. So that's a second entry short. Again, I don't think I would go short right here, right at the support resistance. If you're going to enter this, you probably got to do it as an engulfing bar. That is a very nice signal bar on a failed breakout, but generally you want to wait on the lower high, which comes here, and you don't get a setup, but then it breaks higher yet again and gives you a failed second entry long and a chance to go short right there. The only problem is you want to see this set up underneath the EMA, although it did come back and test the resistance again twice, and you get a double test of it and it holds. Problem is that's not a very good signal bar either. So if you're trading as a trap, though, you could still take that, but as a uh, double test, that signal bar doesn't qualify. So, but you could combine those ideas and say, hey, that's enough reason for me to say I may want to go short here. But again, if you're just patient, you get a break higher here that fails and turns down, and then you got a big engulfing bar or a big bearish bar, and you got more evidence that, hey, we're going shorter here. So, and off it goes. Okay. Yeah, but you get that. Had a little interruption there. I think we were talking about the lower high right here, and then that drops on down fairly nicely. Again, you got a trap there basically. So this one was this. You actually have the trap here, but it's a little iffy. And this is what you'll notice a lot of times that the smarter traders will wait a little bit. And when it tries to go higher again and fails and turns down, then they are all going to jump in, and you can see that it pushes it on lower. So, and you'll see that quite often if it's truly going to be act as a trap. You get those big moves. I mean, when it broke higher there for just a tick and turns down and starts moving down pretty quickly, people realize, hey, we got to get out of this thing, and then it rockets on down real quick. And that's the same way this one did. Here it broke higher, and then when it broke lower, it struggled a minute, but once people realized, hey, we're going lower, it would like shoot down and then back up and shoot down and back up, and then it quickly shot on down and pretty much wiped out all the stops, and all the longs had exited, and then it takes back off up again. So you can even see the trap at play there, even though it wasn't a real strong one that continued on. It's still, you can see that momentum right there, and that's what causes it when traders realize that, hey, we're on the wrong side. And that's what happened here. And this thing continues on down. It's tempting to go long right here, and you might have even went long right here, but it looks, that's two inside bars in a row, or that's an inside bar, and this is just inside this one. That's definitely congestion. So I'm not crazy about entering any of that right there. You might have entered right here, though. It's a little aggressive to enter on that new low right there. Generally, you want to wait on a higher low. And I actually liked looking for a long here, and this one was really tempting when it broke lower and turned up. And you can see that the shorts all start exiting as it moves up. But because it's right into that EMA, I'm a little hesitant there because sometimes it'll hit that EMA and back up, even though if it's still going to go higher. So in this case with that congestion, I just don't think it was smart to enter there. Even though it would have worked, the next time it won't, and you'll be in trouble. So, anyway, you get this chill channel working up. We get a break. You try to go higher once. There's actually a second entry long that triggers right there. But when you start to look at it again, when you got that doji and then this doji and then this bar and all that's inside that, that's congestion. And then this one's inside it as well, couldn't break above it. That's not a good sign for going long, especially now that you got a break and an overshoot of this real tight micro channel. So my thought was, hey, wait and see, you probably get a trap here. And sure enough, it breaks higher, goes a few ticks up, and then all of a sudden, boom, it turns down, and all the longs here realize, oops, we messed up again, and look at it rocket down real quick. And that pretty much takes you into 2 o'clock. But that was a good trap right there, because you would think prices were probably going to go back to the upper side and maybe continue higher since you had a failure here. But notice you fell out the top, turned down, fell out the bottom, turned up. And this time we couldn't even get back to the highs, so it left the market a little weak here in the last hour or so. But you can see we never, we're making slightly lower highs. Even though these are not much lower, the closes are getting lower each time, and that's not a good sign. We didn't end up breaking lower again, but it's probably because there's not much volume here. But we still haven't gone much higher than these highs right here at the midline. So not a lot of trades today. There were a few good ones. Most of the really good trades were traps, just about every one of them. not much happening today. I mean, I sat and sat myself today and just was really frustrated with it. And but sometimes it's like that. And if you just wait, eventually something will come. Just don't force anything, because that's when you have the mistakes and the errors. And when you get people that are looking for an entry on every swing, like most amateur traders are, and inexperienced chart readers, they're looking for an entry on every swing. And when you try to do that on a day like this, you will get chopped to pieces. You got to be able to read this chart, understand what prices are doing, and find these ranges and these channels, and understand how they play out. Otherwise, you're going to be in serious trouble. So anyway, 20 minutes worth here, and we pretty much got through it. I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I believe this Monday is Memorial Day, so I believe this Monday's a holiday. I haven't looked at the calendar yet, but just something to be thinking about in case I forget about it tomorrow. I've been known to do that, and then people not realize there's a holiday on Monday. You should always know the holidays, trading holidays anyway. But generally, most bank or federal holidays are going to be trading holidays. Even a lot of times, the markets will trade till noon, and people will get confused, and they'll be trading, and all of a sudden the market closes on them. So don't make that mistake, because you'll notice the volume to be real low and then all of a sudden, right around noon, the market closes. And you're like, what the heck? And that's because it's a holiday. So very few holidays will the market be completely closed. Most days it will actually trade till noon, and there won't be any volume or anything. So don't try to trade it. It's not worth it. You'll just get stuck in a trade and get chopped up in most cases. So anyway, I'll look at the calendar this afternoon. We'll talk about that tomorrow as we close up. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.